Everybody here, first of all. I see Matt.
Hey, there's Aaron.
Okay.
I think
Aaron,
Matt's
you're
still
here
having
4 times.
difficulty with his audio, right?
Would you repeat that question again?
Is everybody here?
Matt's having problems with his audio. He's going to try to call in through the phone.
Okay. How about Sal? Is he around?
I don't know if he's the one that's on the top, on the third from the I don't know what that is.
Is Sal on by phone?
I don't know how he was going to be dialing in.
Wasn't he on the phone before talking with us?
Whose camera is pointed at the floor?
And Tony, I don't see Tony either.
He's on
Yeah,
phone.
I'm here.
Okay.
Jesus.
And Steve says Aaron Kershaw here again.
So do we need to seat anyone?
Yeah, we need to seat Sal. Oh,
I'll call Sal, find out what's going on.
Hey, it dropped me, but I'm back. Can you hear me?
Okay, yep.
Yes.
Okay.
okay. We'll call the meeting to order. We need to, Gary won't be here because he moved out of town and he's resigning. So we need to seat someone for Gary.
I move we seat Conrado Uchoa for Gary. Dave Walsh.
Yeah,
Okay,
second.
Okay, we have a second. All in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
Okay, Colorado seated, we have a quorum.
I didn't, I'm sorry, Fran, I didn't hear who seconded it.
Tony
Tony
I'll
did.
second it.
Tony
Okay.
did.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That's good. Yeah.
Okay, now we need to approve the minutes of last meeting.
I
Everybody
move
got a copy?
acceptance of the meeting of March 9th as written.
Okay, a second?
I second.
Okay. All approve?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Fran,
yes.
I just want to put a reminder out to everybody that you have to state your name before you speak.
Okay.
Okay. This is Fran again. The minutes are approved. Discussion of the fiscal budget. And Mary, we're going to open the floor to you to just give the highlights of your budget.
Okay. What kind of highlights do you want? Just
I'll be honest with you, the bottom
just like
line is
anything
really
that's
important.
over?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I said the bottom line is what really is important.
Okay. So what we got was the total Board of Selectmen budget, and we had sent that all to you, or Aaron had, was $296,653.05. And my request was going to be to ask the Board of Finance, like I did last year. I have another $150,000 in the sale of town properties to use that. And that would bring our bottom line to $146,653.05 over last year's budget.
Would you repeat that once more, please?
The whole thing, Dave?
No, just the over last year's budget.
$146,653.05.
Okay.
So one of the things that I want to just say, and I'm sure because you all have it, is there's certain things that we can't touch. Our fixed costs are up over $200,000. So if that weren't the case, the general government budget would have been at just over $130,000. with the debt service down in the library, it would have brought us down to just over $92,000. So with the sale of the property, that could have brought us in flat or under budget. You know, I don't know if you just want me to say a little about it. I mean, this has been really difficult for everyone. All of us included, this whole time has been difficult. And I just want you to know that this hasn't escaped any of us that are trying to determine how to keep the town running, how to continue to keep it running, and to still plan for the future. So the Board of Selectmen, I just want to give you a little update. The Board of Selectmen, we were ready to present our budget to you. The day before the first public hearing that we were supposed to have, and then the pandemic came about. So we never got to present to the Board of Finance. We were finally able, 4 weeks ago or so, to finally meet for the first time. And we agreed that we needed to delve deeper into the budget and take a look at, you know, what we could do to further reduce it. We all know people aren't working. They've lost income. Everybody's lives are so different than they were, you know, a month and a half ago. And we're all doing the best we can to try to find, I don't know what you want to call it, some kind of normalcy in our lives. And I think the budget that we're giving you is responsible in light of where we are. You know, we had found more cuts since that meeting, and we've had to make very difficult decisions. Some of them, you know, are going to affect all of us. The biggest problem, and I know the Board of Finances and the Board of Ed, the biggest problem we're facing, right, is the unknowns. And you know, the unknowns are, will the school be returning? Will businesses open? Will people go back to work and all of that? So our goal has always been, and will continue to be, to do the best that we can for the taxpayers, but to also keep the town moving forward. And the Board of Selectmen, along with our department heads, would be happy to meet with the Board of Finance to answer any questions that you may have. I don't have any of my department heads here this evening. So that said, you said the bottom line. There's my plug right there.
Mary, sorry to interrupt, and I know it's not my time. I just want to let everybody know that Sonia could hear earlier, and as soon as the meeting started, she's been muted, and her microphone's been, or her speakers have shut off. So, Aaron, I sent you a chat. I don't know if it's something the host can work on. Sorry to interrupt.
It's nothing from your side, Eric.
Okay.
He's not seeing anything on his side.
Well, is Lisa still around? Oh, yeah, there she is.
Mary?
One of the things that I kind of would like to do is, I was talking to Lisa earlier this week, and I'm looking at one, I kind of want to explain what our balance is in the budget, that where we can use it or can't use it. And we passed the letter out, at least to all the board finance members. And can you go over that, Lisa, and let them know what it is?
I believe you're referring to the unassigned fund balance.
Yes.
Basically, it is just where we stood at the end of June 2019. The unassigned fund balance was $5,298,668, and utilizing during the 2021 budget process some excess cost funds of $250, some town hall repair funds about $2,500. It brings us down to a level that's at around 10.57% of the expenditures that are also in the audit. And your board has had a fund policy for the past few years of a range of 10 to 14%.
Yeah, basically, just on the, we try to keep at least 10% in the fund balance to 14%. A few years ago, we were at 14%. So basically, trying to steal money from that to help us along won't work, because we'll drop it below 10%. So basically, what we need to do is kind of pass out. I want to talk to all the members. My goal is I would like to see us not increase the mill rate. The taxpayers don't get a chance to vote on this, and I think we should give them that much opportunity of not increasing the mill rate. So how can we find the funds to fund these budgets without cutting them? I think we will have,
Who is that speaking now?
this is Fran Moriarty.
Oh, it's Fran.
Yes.
Okay, all right, good. I agree. That's one of the things I was going to ask about. Go ahead. You finish, and then I wanted to say a few things about it too.
See, one of the things, we don't know what we're going to face, and we don't know what the people are going to face, but I don't think we should hit them with a big bill additionally now. So I think we need to tighten up. Also, in talking to Lisa, she feels that there will be money coming in the fall sometime from the government to help us pay some of these bills. Whether it comes or doesn't come, we don't know. But we can address that then and maybe be able to fund some of the projects that we're taking off now. But what it boils down to is we need to ask both of you to make some adjustments to your budget. And what we have, Lisa, do you want me to go over the budget, or do you want to do it?
No, you could go over it.
Okay, basically, we have an additional $360,000 plus. I think it's 360 something, but over last year's budget, we're going to expected income. So that means we have $360,000 to divide between the two of you that can go. Some of the additional money that we got from the state increases our obligation to the school board. So basically, they need at least 200,000 additional money on their budget so that we don't get penalized by the state. The other is that that will leave about $160,000 for the town budget. So somewhere along the line, we need to ask you to go back and look at your budgets and get there. I'm not sure, Mary, if that it's the $150,000 we're going to put in the town money, but it might be in the 360. I don't know. Lisa, is the money in the 360 or isn't?
Yes, that 150 that she's referring to, I included in that revenue calculation.
Okay, so basically your budget is back to around $300,000 over that. You're going to have to come back about 140. So.
Can I ask a couple questions?
Yes, you can.
Dave Walsh. Okay. First one is, Mary, the fixed costs that you're referring to that we have no control over, that primarily, is that the insurance costs? Mary?
Let's see.
Can anyone hear me?
I can hear you, Tony.
Yep, we can hear you.
How about
I
Mary?
hear
Can
you.
she hear me?
I-
Oh, okay.
Can you hear me? Lisa, can
Yes,
you
now I
answer that, please?
Now we can hear you, Mary.
Yes, the fixed cost, the majority is health insurance and regular liability and workers' comp insurance.
Okay. Now, under, in the summary explanation that was given out, under the Building and Zoning Department description here, it says, an example is that it is my understanding that the anticipated revenue for fiscal year 2019-2020 will be $100,000 more than included in the budget. What does that mean?
So as I was talking to the building official, there's a lot of work that's still going on in town. This is Mary Needham. Sorry, I forgot to announce myself.
Thank you, Mary.
There's a lot of business that is still going on in town, a lot of building and all of that. And speaking with the building official, right now, their anticipated revenue was somewhere, Lisa, you could jump in if you want. I want to say their expected revenue was like either 200 or 250,000. They've just about hit that mark right now.
Okay.
So speaking with the building official, he's pretty sure that before July 1st, we may be getting another $100,000 in. Of course, it's iffy. It's unknown about everything, but I believe Lisa already used that. Is that correct, Lisa?
Yes, I included that in my additional.
Oh, you did include it in the, okay.
Yep.
That's what I wondered. Is that still out there or it's already been included and counted for, right?
Correct. We've accounted for it.
Okay. You know, one observation too, I've been following what other towns are doing. And if you look at Tallinn tonight, if you look at even Glastonbury, Vernon, they all came in with no increases. So it doesn't mean we can't have an increase, but it means it would put a lot of pressure on us. And it certainly would be welcome, I'm sure, to a lot of people who don't have a job, that there be no increase this year. The ramification, if the surplus fell below 10% and went down to 9 or something, I mean, we could make it up in a year or so. But this is an emergency situation, and I can tell you WPCA already voted not to increase anything, and they come in with the same budget we did last year, even though we need the money to pay for projects. So it seems to be what everybody's doing. I don't know if that helps us at all or not.
This is Tony. I agree with those, with both. Go ahead. Go ahead.
You know, this is Mary again. I'm sorry if I'm talking over somebody. One of the things that I want to say is we all understand what we're going through. I have 2 family members that are not working, but they're collecting unemployment. They got their stimulus. They're you know, doing okay right now. So one of the other problems that we have that other towns have, I don't know to what extent, is the town has lost an awful lot of money from the crumbling foundations. You know, I want to say just under $8 million as it is right now. So that's really hard for us to make that up right now. Fortunately for us, that we do have businesses that are coming in and we have a lot of work coming, you know, coming up. You know, that $100,000, that's not even all of the businesses that are looking to pull permits to build, to do other things going on. So I feel hopeful for next year. We have more foundations that are being fixed, and as that happens, those homes are being put on the tax list. So we have an awful lot of positives going on. And I totally get what you're all saying. You know, I will go through and look, but I know the Board of Finance over the 2 years that I presented the budgets have really stressed on me about our roads and about our buildings. And unfortunately, those are the 2 largest departments to cut from. So, you know, we'll have to, you know, go in and look at everything, I guess, if that's what, you know, we want to do. Apparently, you know, we don't want to go into the general fund. If what I'm hearing you, Fran, you say, that's like absolutely not.
Well, we put ourselves in jeopardy. That's about it. So, you know, at least if we're going to have to go out and get money eventually. So we will put ourselves in jeopardy if we do that.
Yeah, it could affect our rating down the line in a couple of years when
Well,
we're
but
looking to
everybody,
bond those big projects.
I mean, we can make it up. We can make it up, can't we? In a couple of years. I mean, if things stabilize again. I'd
that's
rather
a
use
chance
the
we'd have
surplus,
to take.
frankly.
Yeah, this is Steve Garrick. I don't think that we can assume the next couple of years
Are going to be any better.
anything. And like Fran mentioned, our reserves were close to 14% within the last few years, and they're going down and down. So we don't have extra money that we're putting in there. Chances are, even if we leave it at 10.5%, there's a chance there's going to be money we need this year that's already going to bring us below that.
Well, there's supposed to be a federal program that's going to refund some portion of the losses to not only states, but city and local governments too. And,
Well,
you know, we should get some share of that. I know it's speculative. Nobody can, you know, can guess what it would be, but it isn't the loss of the the drop from 14 to 10% has a lot to do with the energy projects, right? And the fact that they haven't worked out the way we expected, and there was a delay and all that.
Is that true, Lisa? Is that why, or?
No, no, it's a cumulative effect of not getting the anticipated revenue to offset the expenditures. We had to give the Board of Ed the additional MBR last year. That came from fund balance. The 180
Okay.
for the oil tank come from the fund balance. We're going to get some of that back, which I've estimated in this year's revenue for 2021. I also talked to Fran about the whole FEMA grant. You know, we are going to apply and get some money back. And like he said, that will come back in the fall. That's no guarantee. But that's why he mentioned that, you know, that comes in, or we get the extra additional building permits. And we know we have excess revenue that we didn't anticipate. In the fall, we can come back and say, hey, we got this extra fund, add your project back in, and, you know, go from there. But it's a good place to start with a, you know, a zero increase, and this is what we have to work with right now.
Yeah,
This
because
is Matt McKinney. I agree on this because we can't control the revenue part. That's very much out of our hands relative to what's going on. The only thing we can control is the expenditure side at this point. And again, to points that were made, it's very speculative, but we still have to assume. I think it's better to plan for something worse and have a better outcome. And then, like you said, you can add back in than to just go for it like everything's kind of normal and then have this really bottom out more than we expected to.
Hi, this is Tony. And, you know, in my business, when we don't have the revenues,
what would be the
we have to cut.
operational effects if for the Board of Ed and for the town?
Just talk.
If the $360,000 that is requested now are not provided, what would be the effect on the operational for the departments if they don't get that money?
You're asking that of Steve, right?
Yeah, I think this is for Lisa or for Mary. Or Steve.
Yeah, I was going to ask, I missed the beginning of it because I think Conrado was jumping in at the same time as Tony was asking a question. So I think he was asking what the overall effect was going to be on the Board of Education.
Yeah, if you would
And the
not
other
receive
departments?
the money that you requested.
Right. So, Lisa, I just had a question regarding one of the items that you were saying before, just for my own clarity, as we've been studying the budget. Because the budget, obviously we continue to look at it. We presented our budget over a month ago and things have drastically changed, you know, since that time. But the 360,000 in additional revenue, is a portion of that, when you said 200,000 or so to the Board of Education, are you talking about the additional ECS funds that we included in our calculations? Or is that?
I'm just referring to the general number that was given just a few minutes ago as far as the dividing the 200,000 for the board of for the school system and 160,000 for the town. So I will assume I don't know the details, but on the $200,000, suppose that you do not get these revenues, how will the system, the educational system of the town will be affected should you not get that money?
Right. So I have Lisa, just the same question first, just so I can have an understanding about where I'm starting at, what my starting point is going to be at.
Yes, when we originally estimated for this year a smaller amount of ECS money than we received.
Right.
So when I add in the number that we're anticipating for 2021, I came up with an additional $179,000 for the Board of Ed. So that's where he's coming up with the close to $200,000 for the Board of Ed increase. It's not, has nothing to do with the other money we discussed earlier in the year. Totally separate.
Okay,
Can I
so
ask Steve one question? Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
just because I do want to provide everybody with an update, because again, we have continued to look at the budget, and you know, unfortunately, with the pandemic happening, we have not been able to come back together, and I have some additional adjustments that I've provided to the Board of Education, and it was our plan to have discussion regarding that at an upcoming meeting, whether it's going to be this Monday or the following Monday, because with those adjustments, I think the budget as was presented to the Board of Finance, we had been at a 2.75% increase. And that was utilizing that ECS money. And I just want to make sure I'm clear, Lisa, that we had talked about earlier. So what you're saying is that there's an additional 179.
Myself. There we go. No, it's not an additional 179 above that. If you go with the 232 figure you were looking at,
Yep.
then that 179 would not apply.
Right. So the original figure that I was using was, I'm just trying to pull it back out because I thought we had made an adjustment. Where is it? It was 200 and we had anticipated 237,581 more than.
Yeah, it's a little higher than the actual from what we anticipated to what we're actually getting, because you get that additional ECS based on an adjustment for, I believe it has something to do with the special ed.
Yep. Okay.
So that part wouldn't have been included, but seeing that we're, the end of the year, I didn't know if you were still going to pursue trying to move that for this year. I didn't know if you would need it.
The excess cost funds, you mean?
No, the additional 225 for the ECS. See, although we originally estimated low and we got more, we still, the taxpayer was taxed for that difference, but we'll have to, that's a whole nother subject.
Yep, that was included.
That would come from the cash fund balance, right?
Right, so yeah, that was included as part of our projection. That's how I came to the 2.75%. So the update for everybody, with the adjustments that I presented or that I've sent to the Board of Education that we'll be discussing coming up in the future. Much like Mary, much of our budget is fixed costs, and it's the salaries and the benefits. So 75% of our budget is salaries and benefits. And we've had an increase in special education expenses. There was a significant increase in the need for special education expenses this year, and that has to be carried over into next year. And you see that within our budget lines. So much of the increases that we have, if you add them all together, that is that sort of how we come up to that additional figure that we were requesting. With that being said, there are positions in there, but we are looking at a decrease in overall number of positions for next year. I'm already, we weren't looking to just add positions. So wherever there was a position added, we looked to make it as an offset in other places. So I want to say the overall decrease in our positions is we're actually decreasing a little over 5 when it comes to overall positions. Given the difficult position that we're in, we did go back and look at the position from the Board of Education perspective. And what I will tell you is that the pandemic that has occurred and is occurring has clearly brought to light and highlighted some of the issues that the Board of Education has had over the past years. And that's, largely related to our technology needs and our lack of technology and updated technology.
Right.
And our ability to have equitable access for the kids across the board with that technology. So we had within our budget a technology replacement plan that was included. And our initial goal was to not have to take on a lease or a loan to fund that over a 3-year period. But Obviously, you know, funding it over a lease or a loan over 3 years can drastically decrease the overall payments. So we've investigated that. So my adjustments that have been sent forward to the Board of Education, you know, allude to those adjustments. So the adjustments that I made and that I've sent to the Board of Education for discussion actually bring our budget, when you utilize the ECS money, under 2%, it brings it to 1.88%.
1.8 what?
Yep.
What was it again, the percentage?
Yep, 1.88.
Okay.
So
Can I ask a couple of questions? Go ahead.
I'm just going to give you the dollar amount, just so you, it's a $527,000 increase over this year. Now, what is not included in that, and what I want and what I explained to Fran earlier, is I'm in the middle of a negotiation with our busing company, with our busing contractor. Obviously, there's been a number of days that our buses have not been running, but there's also a governor's executive order saying that we should be paying everybody. So we're in negotiations right now for a credit for next year. I do not have any of that factored in as of yet because there's so many moving parts.
That's what I wanted to ask about, because I've looked at education budgets in other towns. Some of the towns and cities are reporting more than $1 million of savings in things like substitute teachers, supplies, busing, associated costs for umpires and referees and sports travel and all the rest of it. And I thought in my own mind of a lot of other things. So I just wondered, I mean, we don't have to pay for the bus trips that aren't being made now, do we?
No. Well, for athletics and things like that, you know, those are obviously above and beyond our busing contract. You know, the busing contract that we have is for our regular everyday expenses of our traditional busing during the day, as well as our VOAG, our VOTEC, our special education buses, and things of that nature. So we're looking at trying to have a negotiation to have a credit placed on next year as part of that. You know, that I don't have a dollar amount for you. I don't have a figure for you on that because, you know, we're in day 3 or 4 of negotiations with that.
Right. Well, just to clarify that for me, the day that, and you did a great job, you picked the exact time that you should have canceled school and postponed it, and it was done really well, and, I know that. But from that time on, we didn't pay the bus line anything, did we? For trips that were never made?
So our busing contract is for the 181 school days. For athletics and everything else that's above and beyond it, the way the contract.
But what if there's not you mean to tell me you have to pay for the 180 days even if there aren't 180 days in the school year?
No, that's what we're in the middle of negotiating, is what the credit would be for the fact. For the fact
wasn't there large savings in things like supplies and heat and lighting and, a lot of other things just thinking about it, it seemed to me that there should be a lot of money coming back. Even food has to be subsidized by the schools. That wasn't served. I know they had the pickups at the middle school, but I don't think it was, I don't know, maybe it was, but it's hard to believe it was even equal to what would have happened if school had been held. But I'm just wondering, to help us out of this year, if any of that stuff could be accounted for, in your budget and the increase goes down, it's tremendously welcome at a time like this, particularly since we're in the same environment everybody else is. Other places are just not, funding those kinds of increases this year. So I just thought maybe there was enough savings. There were no substitute teachers, obviously, that had to be paid, and I don't know, do they still run special education trips to centers for students and so forth, or is that canceled too now?
Oh no! Every special education student that is in an outplacement is still being funded fully because they're still receiving their education through the outplacement. So there are no savings when it comes to special education outplacements.
Okay.
However, I'm in agreement with you, Dave, and with everybody else, just to let you know that. So I had previously reached out to Lisa to let her know before all of this began. I let you know that we have had significant increases in our special education costs this year. So we were actually at a point, our special education costs were going to have us looking at coming in very close, if not a potential deficit. And I was going to be potentially asking for excess cost funds to bring that special education back up to whole. So I don't want to call it a surplus, because it's the balance of our budget at the end of the year will be due to the lack of expenditures, many of which you've already alluded to, Dave, regarding those different areas. So it's my goal, and in discussion with the Board of Education, for us to come up with ways that we can utilize things like busing credits for next year, utilizing the balance, any balance that we have from the 1920 budget, to try to prepay and pre-purchase the items that we would have that have been included and shown and will be necessary. What I want everybody to clearly know is that the students are going to need not just 3 months of remediation, not 6 months of remediation. We're going to have to significantly look at multiple years of catching the kids back up, because the way that they're being educated, it's just not the same, and gaps are going to begin to show. So we are doing everything we can from our end, and it's our goal to have a discussion coming up where we'll be able to hopefully, reduce down that percent increase that we provided to you. I just needed to know, and what I'm clearly hearing from the board this evening is that you're wanting us to try to reduce it as low as possible, if not remove any possible request for additional monies.
That would be great, given the situation of the taxpayers. That's the problem. The average person on the street, there's an awful lot of people here who have lost their jobs or are only working part-time and so forth. And, looking at what even richer towns than us are doing, that seems to be one of the things that, one of the directions everybody's moving. I can see if you came to us and said, look, what this shows is, let's say, which it did, an inadequacy in our technology level and the availability of some kind of, what are they, not laptops, what do they call those, Chromebooks and things like that kids could take home with them. And, and people would understand that, because who knows, this could happen again. And it certainly would be good if we had that, that capability. But anything else you can do, from my perspective, and I'm a huge supporter of education, but anything else you can do right now for this fiscal year to really hold the line is tremendously important, because some people are facing just, not being able to eat, pay their bills and so forth. It's really sad.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I would agree with you. And, I just would remind everybody that, the food service program that we run is a self-funded program. So the costs that are associated with that program, we are continuing to feed the kids. We feed any person who's 18 years or younger in the town. They do not have, they notify us, we provide them with meals. We've actually expanded it, and now we provide meals 7 days a week. So Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, they come and they pick up. And then Monday, obviously, we give them Monday and Tuesday. Wednesday, we give them Wednesday and Thursday. And Friday, we give them enough for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. They get a breakfast and a lunch for each day. And that's, the State Department of Education requested the waiver from the U.S. Government, and they were provided it. So, we've expanded the programming. So, we do continue to feed the families.
That's great. That's great.
And I will say that there's over 200 meals being provided each day.
It is, huh? Okay.
Absolutely. Yep. There's a definite need for that.
Steve, this is Steve Garrick. As far as the numbers go with the budget, I think what you talked about for next year is all very justified. I guess the question is there going to be money enough left over in your budget to make that up? In other words, costs that you're saving this year instead of prepayment. My understanding is how your budget works at the end of the year. If there's money left over, it comes back to the town. Will there be enough money coming back to the town to fund the increase in your budget?
Not in whole, no. My projections right now, the balance at the end of the year would not cover the full amount. That's why I'm in, part of what my explanation was utilizing some of the surplus funds at the end of the year and trying to pre-purchase to take care of those, as well as the any negotiations that we have with the busing contract. To be 100% honest with you, the most difficult thing I have and the greatest level of frustration I have is with the fact that the governor will not make a decision regarding the date. I'm sorry. I can't give you a hard number because I don't know what I'm going to have left at the end of the year. If he tells us we have to come back for a week, that totally changes any projection that I have. If he tells me right now that, you're out for the rest of the year, okay, I can plan for that the rest of the year. But I also need to know what is our plan for the summer. How will we slowly begin to get the economy going and loosening things up? Because, I was on the governor's conference call earlier today, or just this evening, and they were talking about summer camps and things like that. Well, we need the ability to plan for what that would mean here. I know that's a big impact on Mary's budget, but if they're going to tell us that we should be running summer camps, we need to have the funding to be able to do that. It's hard to know.
If that happened, we'd have to give you that money. I mean, there's no question, right? If that happened, you ordered to do it, we'd have to give you the money.
So one more, this is Steve Garrick again, and maybe I missed the memo earlier. Have we received anything from Tammy yet? Do we know what the grand list is going to be? Is it an increase? Anybody?
Yes.
No,
She
we lost.
showed,
Mary said we lost money because of the crumbling foundations.
No, we
Lost
show an
7 million.
increase in the grand list over last year, and it's the equivalent of about $280,000.
Okay, so that can make up some of the,
That's included in that $363,000 figure that Fran had mentioned earlier.
so,
All included.
well, you said the 150 was included in there too.
The 150, yeah,
So there's 150 in there, and another 183,000?
well, no, 150, that 150 is included in the figure, but it's not 150 more than last year. You're mistaking the two figures. The
So how much money-
280 is an additional tax revenue, and then the balance of the 363, a couple of the items are the decrease in the debt service and the library. That's about 37,000. And then the difference is increased revenue in mainly local sources, which is the building department and some of the other departments.
So if we,
I will forward all that information to all of you tomorrow.
so if we take all the numbers off the table and don't assume that Mary's using any of that money toward her budget, what's that actual amount of money total? So forget about her using it toward her budget. The total amount of money extra we have is what number?
$363,000. $363,729 to be exact.
So right now, if Mary's asking for 296, that means we have, almost 70,000 left over to go toward, say, the Board of Ed. I know it doesn't work exactly that way, but we'll still have a shortfall of somewhere around 450,000 to get to no tax increase.
Correct.
Okay.
If I may, this is a question for Lisa and Mary, but Steve, if you can follow along, it plays into the Board of Education also. So I'm looking at Mary's budget here, and we have the sale of town property of $150,000, which if we allocated that towards her increase would leave $146,000, roughly almost $147,000 of being a zero increase. Correct, Lisa?
Yeah, she'd have to reduce it by that 146. Right.
So then if on here, now, if I scroll down and I go down to, the highway department, I see in the highway department, there's a lease purchase. I think it's recreation, parks. Did I miss it? There's a lease purchase being paid off in the highway department this year of $39,000, but I see on the bottom, there's vehicle replacement of $220,000. Is there a reason we're not putting that into a lease purchase? That would almost wipe out that entire $146,000.
Mary
So
would
this
have to
is
answer
Mary.
that.
Okay, so this is Mary.
Yeah.
So this is why I had said that my department heads. So Devin has a plan to do a vehicle replacement plan so that we don't have to go to leases. He'll purchase a vehicle just like all the other towns do every year. So that eventually we'll just keep that amount of money in and we'll purchase our vehicles that way so we don't have to have a lease purchase. And unfortunately, I didn't think we were going to allow any of the department heads here, so he can explain exactly how that would work. And we knew this year was going to be the tough year for it, but I think it's a great plan that he has, and we can get rid of the leases from here on in. And every year we'll just keep that amount of money in to purchase the vehicle.
Well, and historically, the reason the leases were put into place was to have a fixed amount every year that rolled, and as the old leases rolled out, we would put the new leases in, and through the lease purchase, you can buy more equipment. On the lease purchase, you're still getting the same result, but you're not stuck on one set figure because you can have multiple purchases in one lease purchase. So that's why the lease purchases, they put them in, at least probably 10 or 15 years ago. Dick Dobson was the one that kind of instituted putting that in so that we would always keep money in the budget and keep replacing equipment. So that's, why I asked that question, why we're moving lease purchase and putting a big lump sum in like that, because that $220,000 can be spread out to $40,000 over 5 years.
Yeah, and oops.
Did we lose her?
Muted herself.
I can't hear anything anymore.
Oh, it's
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
So you can hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So at any other point, I can have Devin talk to you guys about what the plan is. I think it'll work really well. Yes, it is a large amount right now, but this lease purchase that we've had, we still have vehicles. It ends up getting used for other things. We have vehicles that are like from, 1990 something. At least this way, we can replace, replace the vehicles every year without having to take a lease out.
It's not going to change the rate the vehicles are being replaced. It's only changing the way it's being paid for. If they're not putting the vehicles into the lease purchase, it's not changing the way it's being purchased. It's the way it's being paid for. You got $220,000 there. You can buy a large dump truck with a plow for $160,000, $170,000, and it still leaves you enough to buy another complete F550.
All right, can you hear me?
Yeah.
So the plan, it makes a 20-year.
The lease purchase is 5 years typically, correct, Lisa?
Lisa's muted.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's
A typical lease is 5. You could also do them for 3 years if you wanted to replace, have a little larger payment and replace things every 3 years.
The $220,000 is a lot more than we ever spend on leases in any year, correct?
Yeah, the lease payment, the largest lease payment we have right now is $67,000, and that bought us 2 dump trucks.
Yeah, so I think the bottom line is, I think Rich has hit the nail on the head here. We can reduce your budget to a 0 to the taxpayers or a 0 increase if we just stay with the lease purchase, at least for another year. Now, I'm not saying it's not a bad idea, but if we're paying $67,000 a year the last few years for vehicle leases, it's going to be hard to tell the public, well, we're going to pay $220,000 a year every year from here on in for vehicles. That's a big increase.
That's right.
This is Tony. Can I ask Steve a question? I want to go back to the busing.
Yep.
Can you know when I take your budget for the buses and divide it by 181 days, you come up with 20,000 and change per day. How many days of school are we not going to have this year to negotiate that down? I mean, when I look at it, that could be $1 million
Yeah, it's not
difference.
So part of the governor's executive order was for all of the entities to begin negotiating with the different transportation companies. And the executive order was for us to make sure that we are negotiating so that they can maintain their employees. So basically part of the negotiations is our ability to provide them with enough money so that they can maintain their employees and their fleet will be ready for the immediate return. So it's not as clean and as just dividing.
They don't get laid off they don't get laid off or furloughed like everyone else in the real world.
Yes, they do. They're getting
Okay, so then
they're getting unemployment. Matter of fact, they're getting unemployment plus the government amount. So I don't think they're losing employees while they're laid off because they're not paying them. How's that?
Right. So why are we paying them for employees that they're not using?
Right.
It makes no sense. And again, you said the governor directed it, so that might have something to do with it, but.
Right. So many of the bus companies, when the school closure immediately occurred, they laid off all of their employees. And then the executive order came out, and the executive order was to have them basically brought back and for our contracts to begin negotiating the amount that we would pay them so that they could continue to maintain their employees. So that's sort of where the negotiation part of this is how much do we need to provide them so that they can maintain their employees and their fleet will be ready. So for the period of time where where they're unemployed, we would be looking at larger amounts of savings because I don't need to provide them any additional money for them to make up for their wages. If they're going through unemployment, the extra $600 stimulus and all that type of stuff, then I don't need to cover any of that. They're getting their wages. As part of the executive order, the bus companies now have to bring them back. They have to immediately put back to their wage, and then we have to cover it's the expectation from the executive order that we then provide them with enough money so that they can pay their wages and have their fleet ready. So that's sort of where the negotiations are, is how much money could we potentially be saving. Across the state.
Well, first of all, they probably don't have to carry the insurance on the buses because they're not on the road. There's no fuel being used. I mean, unless they're going to open their books to you and say, sure, this is what we do, how are we ever going to negotiate?
Absolutely. I agree with that.
Right. So a separate factor is we have separate entity. We pay for our fuel. So they're not paying for their fuel. So that's not part of our contract. We have a separate line within our budget for paying for that fuel. So that's not a piece that comes into play with that. But yeah, I would agree with you. It's very difficult for us to do that. The governor's put us in a tough spot trying to negotiate.
So the fuel alone, then you have real fuel savings then this year.
Well, the fuel's been purchased.
Well, I think we're going down a rat hole. This is Fran Moriarty again. We don't want to negotiate how you manage your budgets, but I kind of wanted to get us to the idea that what can we do for the people of the town to not have an increase? And that's basically what we need you to work on. I question where you cut, where you don't cut in your budgets and negotiations. I don't think we can handle here tonight. So, Mary and
No,
Steve,
I understood that you didn't want to have any decisions tonight, Fran, right?
No decisions. Basically, we have to go back and have
Just
them look
wanted
at
to,
that.
okay, I agree, talk things over, but I agree with Tony on the bus thing. I'd be damn careful that you don't get fleeced by those guys, because you know as well as we do, bus drivers don't make much money, and they're getting a lot of money. They're making huge profits with this, busing kids all year. So you'd have to really demand that they open their books and tell you exactly what the labor costs are and so forth. And it would also be worthwhile probably to go to the governor's office and ask them exactly what they mean, how much you're supposed to pay and everything. I thought there'd be huge savings there with the fuel too. Those buses don't get good gas miles, and even with the price of gasoline now, I thought, we would be saving a lot of money. So
Unfortunately, Dave, across the state, you're not seeing the types of savings, per the executive order in the negotiation with the bus companies that you'd expect.
Okay.
The range is some districts are paying them 100% and just keeping them whole. There's no way we're doing that. I've explained that to the bus company. So that's why we're on day, 3 or 4 of negotiations, because, we need to try to salvage as much as we can.
I understand. Yeah.
And
you're supposed to you're going to get an answer by the end of next week, he said, on schools, right? He said tonight, the governor did on Channel 3. So,
we ask every day. I'm being given the same answer every day. And the answer is consistently that, if you talk to the commissioner, he says it's the governor's decision. And then, the governor's conference call today, it was, we're going to continue to evaluate it and see what's happening, but it's hard to know what to do until we know really when they want us.
I understand that. And just one other question from me. When you say you have to, obviously provide remediation for this period that's been missed, and are you thinking in terms of a longer school day or starting school earlier in the summer, or how did you plan to make it up?
Well, that's one of the many questions that we're trying to resolve and come up with a plan for. Because it's hard for me to say that you can come in during the summer when I don't know whether or not I can have the kids in the school during the summer. But
I understand.
My point is that and we're not just talking special, we're talking regular education, special education. We're talking, pre-K through, the 11th grade, because, the seniors will obviously be graduating. And we may get told by the state of what we're required to do in terms of any types of compensatory education. There's a lot of unknowns when it comes to that. And I apologize. I know you really I would really love to be able to give you a number tonight, because the level of detail we try to put into our budget that we present to you. There's so many questions out there right now that we can't give you that hard number. Well, I guess, Lisa, maybe outside of this, you and I can have a conversation, and you can tell me really what the dollar amount it comes down to put us in alignment with what the Board of Finance is requesting. Because I'm still a little confused on the ECS and the dollar amount that we're utilizing as part of that.
All right.
Steve, you've done really good detailed budgets, and I appreciate that. And I think that last couple of years especially, you've kind of jumped in and helped out as much as you can. So I'm sure you're going to do the best you can with cutting things down, figuring those numbers out. Not worried about that. Our worry is more about how do we get a budget to where the taxpayers can afford it. Mm-hmm. So, you probably have the hardest job here doing that. Lisa, can you actually put together what we normally would see where, here's what the budgets are that are being requested, here are the increases, here's our new tax revenues, and show the mill rate increase? You know what I'm talking about?
I do, and I will send you that tomorrow.
Perfect. I think that'll help us all really. So when we put these numbers together, we understand them a lot better.
Yep, I get it.
Okay.
I know Sonia was unable to, we lost her in the middle there, and so I had her call. Sonia, you're on my cell phone. Is there anything you wanted to add in on behalf of the Board of Education? Can you hear me? Can you hear her or no?
Yes, I can.
I just would like to say why I absolutely respect the fact of trying to, not increase for our taxpayers. Education does not stop a cost. It's still costing us money to educate these kids at home. And I really want the town to know how much has been invested in educating these kids at home, and what it took to get technology in their hands, internet in their homes, food in their bellies. All of that consistently has happened no matter what the circumstances are. So I feel frustrated that you believe that there's a lot of savings. So hopefully we can outline that for you so that you can see what has gone into taking care of our children in this town, educationally and food-wise, this past couple weeks, and what it could potentially cost us continuing on the rest of the school year, and then we have no idea what the fall is going to bring. So
Right.
we will do our best to find some savings. It's going to be hard, and I just hope that everybody understands what it has taken to get us to this point.
Okay. The information would be welcome, and we take your point, of course, as being an important one.
Yeah, anybody else have anything else to add to this? If not, I'd like to move on.
Okay.
I would like to, it's Matt McKenney, just real quick, and I appreciate Sonia's point too, but to the point that the taxpayers will not get a say this year. If I understand the structure of how we're going to do this, I think it is it's our responsibility, even as we appreciate and see these nuances, to still try and put ourselves in the shoes of the people that are hurting. I mean, there are a lot of people in this town that are, not whole. I know a number of them personally, so we really have to balance that. And as much as it seems like we're being hard on you guys, we have an obligation to at least push back and see what you can do to stay, even as much as possible.
Okay. Is that it? Anybody else have any more input?
No, we'll just discuss this again, that's all.
Oh, yeah, we're going to discuss this again. What, we got new business. Anybody, I have an item I got to bring up. We have to set a special meeting because Gary Fisher is no longer with us. And the board is up to the board to elect a new, his replacement. So somewhere along the line, we'll have a special meeting to elect another representative for the board.
Okay, and it'll be done like this one, virtually, right?
It'll be virtual, yes.
Okay, yeah, sure, that's fine.
Well, they may open the state. He's going to open the state up in the next few weeks. Maybe things will start to shake out a little bit and get some better guidance on where we're headed.
I hope so. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think the chance of getting ill is going to go away for a few months. I think you're still going to have some people that are going to be ill. And it's so. But we'll have a special. We have basically per state regulations, the board makes the election, and has to be a special meeting.
Okay.
So that's it. Do we have any old business? No.
Move to adjourn.
Okay. Second. Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. And Steve and Mary, I'm sorry that we had put this all on your back, but we're in a tough time. We have to work it, so. Okay?
Yeah, thank you, everybody, for your help.
Hey, thank you, everyone. Steve, we do appreciate the job you're doing.
Thank you.
Yes, we do.
Fran, I'm sorry, I should ask this, but do you have a time frame in terms of when you'd like this by? And Lisa, maybe when we talk tomorrow, you'll know, and we can talk. You can let me know.
Well,
I just need to have time to figure out how I'm coordinating with the Board of Ed.
Well, if the governor's going to make an announcement, like he said tonight, next week, it'd probably be smart to wait until we hear what the announcement is, and then meet right after that.
Yeah, obviously you can do your budget better once you have all the information.
It really
agree wholeheartedly.
Until you get through your board and approve a new budget, we can't go anywhere. So,
right.
We're kind of waiting for you and for Mary to get back to us.
Okay, Lisa, we'll touch base tomorrow, and I'll get cracking on it.
All right. Have a
All
good
right.
night.
Thank you, everybody. Stay
Thank you,
safe,
everybody.
stay healthy.
All right, have a
Thank
great
you.
evening.
Good night. Stay safe.
Good night.
Good night.
Be safe.